Okay, shall I close the test then? Yes,
hello, Abhijit sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, this is Shashi Bhushan Singh is here. I submitted the result and it's showing that sorry, it appears you have already taken this test. That window has been appeared in front of me right now.
Sorry,
After
sir,
submission of the test report. Hello, are you listening right, sir?
Yeah. So your voice is cracking. Yes, sir.
After
Can you please repeat?
Yes. After submission of the test report, it is showing that a window is appeared basically, and it is showing that sorry, it appears you have already taken this test.
Okay, but you have not submitted, right?
So I have submitted.
So that's the reason why it is not showing there.
I submitted, but the result is not showing.
Yeah, as Sachin sir is, you might have accidentally submitted the button. It could have happened.
Yes, submit button twice. Right. Sachin sir is right. The same thing I have done, so that may be reason. Okay, thanks sir.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Sachin sir, for the troubleshooting guidance. Yeah. So I'm closing the test now. Okay. Yes. So 93% have answered the question 1 correctly, 66% have answered question 2 correctly, and 90% have answered question number 3 correctly. Any doubts in this? Any of the questions?
Sao tôi sai?
Please clarify the second one.
Clarify the second part. Okay. Top management has assigned the roles, responsibilities, authorities and accountability of the OHS to relevant department, division managers and management representatives. So here if you see, accountability cannot be delegated, sir. It has to be with the top management only. They can delegate roles, responsibilities and authorities to the relevant department or division managers, right? Or a management representative. But accountability will lie with the top management only. But here top management has assigned the roles, responsibility, authority and accountability to the department and division managers. And all. That's the reason why it is non-conforming. As per clause number 5.1, top management commitment, leadership commitment. Okay? Mahadev sir, top management is accountable, sir.
Cao ấy là cái gì thầy? Accountability cái gì đã là cái gì?
Top management is not responsible. When I say accountable, what do we mean by accountability? Accountability, when I say it is someone who defines the vision, mission, goal for the organization, the target, right? The short-term goals, the long-term goals. He is the one who is accountable. Okay, class? Shall I move to clause number 7? So I am hiding the results now. Okay.
Bây giờ đến 14.000.
Okay, so moving on to clause number 7. Now this is again, this clause really has, I mean, to be very honest, has nothing much to say, but still we will go through it, right, since we have covered this in detail, right? So this is similar to 9001. Yes, Arvind sir, please unmute yourself. Arvind sir, any question?
No.
Ravi sir, any question? Arvind sir, do you have any question? I could see you have raised your hand. Okay, okay sir. Yeah, so moving on to clause number 7, if you see here, right, if we compare all the three standards, right, 9000, ISO 14000 and ISO 45001, right, the same clauses are there, resources, 7.1, 7.2 is competency, 7.3 is awareness, 7.4 is communication, right, and 7.5 is documented information.
Em xin phép nhá.
Đi.
Cái gì đấy ăn hảo hảo giàu điên đảo. Ăn đi cho nó rau hảo hơn.
Right. So again, if you see what standard is saying, is the organization has to ensure that all the necessary resources required for successful implementation, right, maintenance, establishment of your quality management system. The necessary resources are to be determined and provided for both ISO 14001 as well as ISO 45001. Right, then as far as competency is concerned, right, so here apart from what we have seen in ISO 9001, right, here like I'll just quickly go through this, like people again, here all the necessary resources in the form of people, right, for the effective implementation of your 14001 and 45001, right. This is related to IATF, so I will skip this slide. Yeah. So this is related to competency, right? So when I say here, apart from what we have discussed in 9001, right? What ISO 14000 and ISO 45001 is asking the organization is determine the training needs associated with the environmental aspects, right? So here we need to identify, we need to have the trainings, the competency development for aspect impact study, right? So in your training calendar, right, or in your on-job training calendar, right, there should be a requirement for environmental aspect impact study, and we need to identify the competency level of the people, right, for this particular activity to be conducted, right? This is an additional requirement in addition to the 9001 requirement, right? In this, if you see in clause number 7.2 for 45001, here we need to identify the competency for hazard identification and risk assessment, right? So in 4000, we have to identify the competency related to aspect impact. And here we need to identify the competency related to the hazard identification and risk assessment, apart from all other common 9001 requirements, which are nothing but like what could be the implications of not implementing the IMS requirements, right? What is the, what I would say, the, what are the benefits of your implementing the IMS requirements, right? And whenever you provide training, right, in order to achieve the competency level, you need to evaluate the effectiveness of the training given, right? That is very, very, very important. So whenever you audit the competency clause or a competency requirement, you need to ensure the effectiveness evaluation evidence during your audit. If there is no evidence of effectiveness evaluation, that is an major NC, right? That you can give it as an NC, basically under clause number 7.2. Yes, Arvind sir, any questions, sir?
Yeah, you said that competency evaluation has to be incorporated in the training plan.
Yes.
Now my question is, what is the frequency? Is it to be done refreshed yearly, or only to new joinees, or once in 3 years, 2 years?
Whenever, yeah, look, as far as the frequency is concerned, it is not mandatory that you do it every month. It is only thing that if there is a change in the, let us say, roles and responsibility, if there is new recruitment happening in, or if there are any changes in your aspect impact or your hazard identification risk assessment implementation methodology, you need to provide a training and you need to develop the competency level, basically. Okay. So I am moving on to the next clause, which is 7.3. I'll keep these slides for IATF standard. Yeah. So basically moving on to clause number 7.3. So here, if you all know what, in 9001, we have discussed about the awareness clause, right? So there the points were like, the organization should, the employees should be aware about the policy, right? Then the objective, then the implications of not fulfilling the requirements, and what are the benefits, right? Apart from this, what 14,001 and 45,001 standard is saying is all the employees, right, related to their scope of work, shall be aware about the environmental aspects and impacts. What are the significant environmental aspects and impacts, right? Then what are the hazards and what are the risks associated, that too with related to their work, right? If you see here, right, so in environmental, in 14,001, what are the like additional requirements compared to 9,001 is, apart from the objectives and policy, right, your environmental policy or health and safety policy, the interested parties and the employees related to their scope of work should know what are the significant environmental aspects and impacts related to their scope of the work. And as far as 45,001 is concerned, right, they should know about the, like, what are the incidents which have happened, right, and what are the outcomes of the investigations and what are the actions which have been taken, right, and what are the hazards related to their zone, related to their area of work, right, what are the hazards and what are the risks associated with the hazards, right. And then the most important point in 45,001 is the people, the workers in the organization should be aware on how they can rescue themselves in case if there is any danger or if there is any abnormal situation occurred in the organization related to the safety, right? So how they can rescue themselves, how they can protect themselves from the serious danger situations, right? This is very, very, very important, right? In order to, how they can prevent their lives or health from the risk which could happen in the organization, right? So these are the awareness points to be like audited by like auditing this particular 7.3 clause in context of ISO 45001. Right? So you can like simply ask if there is any danger happening, if there is a, let us say if there is an earthquake, if there is a fire, right? How would you rescue yourself, or is there any I mean, are they aware about the mock drills? Are they aware about the what I would say the what we call it as I'm sorry, I'm not able to get that word. The emergency exits, right? Are they aware about the emergency exits? The exit. What measures are to be followed in case of if any emergency is reported, right? So you can audit this in your sampling audit, basically, right? So this is given in clause number 7.3. Any doubts, any queries in this particular clause? This is related to IITF, so I'll skip this slide. This is 9001 communication, right? So similar to what we have discussed in clause number 7.4 for 9000, right? We need to have a communication matrix, internal communication, external communication, right? Like what to communicate, when to communicate, how to communicate, with whom to communicate, who communicates, right? So this you can plan for both 14,000 as well as 45,001. Now when I say communications, like we have two types of communication, internal communication and external communication, right? So internal communication could be the communication of identified hazards or the communication of identified environmental aspects. If there are any health and safety related programs happening, how do we communicate, right? Communication of emergency control centers, right? ECC centers in the organization, right? Communication from workers, right? If there are any, like the feedback mechanisms, right? How the feedbacks from the workers are captured, right? And are discussed in the common forums. Communication about the, what could be the assembly points, right? Emergency the exits. Then how emergency siren is blown and all clear siren is blown, right? These are some of the examples of your internal communication. Then as far as your external communication is concerned, it could be like service level, your agreements, or like pre-project, your OHSMS planning, right? On-site induction to raise awareness among the contractors and workers related to your environment management system and occupational health and safety management system. It could be like legal and other your requirements, like if any factory inspector visits your premises, right? So there is a legal requirement that you should have a factory inspector factory inspector visit logbook. Right, so you should have a logbook wherein you need to keep a track of whenever the factory inspector visits, he should log in his entry, right? Entry and exit in that particular register. So that particular communication. I've also told you about the external communication as that consent board, which is to be displayed at what noise level, right? What pollution level you are operating, how many number of accidents have been reported in your organizations, right? How many near misses have been happened, right? Any communication to contractors, right, related to your environment management system or occupational health and safety management system. So these all you can, as an example, you can incorporate in your internal external communication matrix, right? So this is as far as clause number 7.4 is concerned. And then we have clause number 7.5, right? So which is nothing but the control of documented information. So again in this clause there is no change, right? It is similar to ISO 9001, right? Where you need to have a system for documentation control, right? How do you control the documents? Who is going to do the document? Who is going to approve the document, right? Read, write, access, right? Are you going to publish the documents in soft copy or in hard copy, right? How do you ensure the legibility of the document? How do you ensure the confidentiality of the document, right? What will be the language? How are you ensuring, like, how are you going to ensure the version control, right? The distribution access, the read-time access, right? Usage, storage, preservation, disposal, right? So these are all like common requirements which will be applicable as it is, as in case of 9001, right? So with this, I finish with clause number 7, right? If you have any doubts, any queries related to clause number 7, right, please raise your hands or do drop in your questions in the chat box.
Anyone?
Yes, class, any questions? No questions? Which language to be preferred? So in context of what, sir? So Suhas sir, can you unmute yourself? Lee, I'll get back to your question. Just give me a moment. I'll first answer. Suhas sir's question and then I'll get back to you.
Hello.
Yes, Suhas sir.
Sir, I want to ask this question with regard to 7.5 documentation process. There you have mentioned that documentation in 7.5.
Yes, please.
There you have said that who can create a document, who can approve, and which language to be used.
Yes.
So in this case, we need to only use the national language or the local language, or
Sir, it is,
language you
look,
can use.
basically it should be a local language, right? Look, where say communication, right? So communication should be effective. Even if you are using, what I would say, if you are not using a local language, if you are using an English language, whether the intent of that particular requirement have been passed on to the concerned interested party or not, that is important, right? So it doesn't matter whether you communicate in Hindi, in English, right, in Marathi, it doesn't matter. But whenever there will be a conversation, right, there will be a transfer of the information taking place. That should, there should not be any communication gap. That is what I would basically mention for this.
Okay, sir. Thank
So
you.
if you have like a people who can read, right, like English or who can understand English, there is no need to publish it in local language, right? But there are people, right, who cannot understand or who cannot read. Then in that case, you definitely need to have, you need to communicate it in the local language for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Lee, now I'll answer your question and then Vishal sir, I'll get back to your question on the current slide. In system QMS available some document, but when Vietnam implement some change as per system, so this possible or not? Lee, can you just reframe your question? I am not able to get this form and format. Can you just unmute yourself and ask?
Unmute. Thay.
Lee, if you can unmute and ask your question, because it is in bits and pieces, so I basically am not able to get the complete, what I would say, the structure of your question.
Yes, sir. Hello?
Yes, Lee, please.
Sir, we get complete QMS system from India. transfer to Vietnam.
Okay.
And in level 4, some form or checklist. We revise some. We have some revise. Example, we add some column or we change some detail in that form, but some control number or we keep same. So that's possible or not?
Yes. I'll just give me a moment. What I'll do, I'll just explain you this particular slide. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what this slide is all about? This particular structure, right? If you see here from the top, right? I'm explaining from the top. Level 1, right? Level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4. These are the 4 level of documents. Now, this particular structure you will not find in any of the international standards published by ISO. This particular structure is defined by the organizations like us, okay? And this is now getting followed, okay? But you will not find any methodology or any standard concept behind this particular methodology, right? Now, this is generally, a rule of thumb, and this is generally like implemented as it is. Okay. Now, I'll answer Madhav sir. I'll answer your question also. Right. We'll go one by one. When I say level 1 document, level 1 document is we call it as an Apex manual or a quality manual. This is your company's document, right? Here, what is your company doing in order to implement the integrated management system or a quality management system, whatever. If you are implementing multiple standards, it will be IMS. If you are implementing quality standard, it will be QMS, right? So this is basically a quality manual or an IMS manual which will be implemented all across the organization, and there will be no change as such will be done if it is issued by if it is issued from corporate, right? Then other locations have no right to change this particular, to change any of the information mentioned in the particular manual. Yes, you can raise your request for a change, right? And if your change is valid, is accepted, it will be reviewed and then it will be implemented, and then, it will be revised and implemented all across the organization, but not only one organization. Okay, are we clear with this level 1 document?
Yes, sir.
Okay, moving on to level 2 document, right? So level 2 document, we generally call it as procedures or processes, right? Now, procedure as such, there is, as per ISO 9001:2015, this procedure is now replaced by processes because the standard is using a process-based approach. But if you want to use procedure as a terminology, you can definitely use it, right? But I would request all to implement the methodology of process-based approach because this is what standard is promoting, and we should also follow this particular methodology of a process-based approach. So this level 2 document again is at an organization level. This particular document also cannot be revised by any of the location without the permission of the document controlling authority, right? So if you want to change any of the process level document, you again have to contact the document controlling authority or whosoever is owning the responsibility of the process, right? Follow the change management system. If your request or your change is accepted, that will be implemented and that will be revised and implemented all across the organization. Sorry. Okay. Okay, class. Shall I move on to the next point? Any doubts on this level 2? Okay. Moving on to level 3 document. Level 3 documents are generally the work instructions or the guidelines or the standards which you use as a supporting document. Now this level 3 document is a part of your level 2 documents many a times. right? Now, from level 3 onwards, these particular documents can be changed, can be implemented, can be revised, can be developed at an individual location, right? So you can have your level 3 documents based on your operating instruction, based on your operations and your processes. So these level 3 documents are independent documents. Are we clear? Okay. And similarly, level 4 documents. Level 4 documents are again forms and formats. If there are any forms and formats issued from your corporate, then you need to use it as it is. But if you are willing to make any changes based on your processes, right, based on your record generation activities, you can definitely make the changes, but you need to inform the concerned owner, and then you need to provide your documentation structure, your title, your name, because that particular document will be then that particular document will be your baby. That will not be a corporate baby, right? So all the revision, change, history, change management will be managed at an independent, at an individual location. Are we clear on this particular slide? Any doubts? Okay, so shall I move on to the next clause then? Vishal sir, I hope I have cleared your how to control for level 3 and level 4. Sir, level 3 and level 4 can be controlled at a department level, or it can be controlled at an from the centralized level. What you can do is, if you are making any changes, right, there can be two levels of controls, at an department level or it can be a centralized control. If you are willing to get that particular level 3 document controlled from a centralized location, what you can do is, whenever you are making any changes, right, first of all, get that document with the document issue note or like whatever the system you have for that particular document, get it controlled from the centralized agency, documentation agency, and that particular agency will then issue that particular document to the relevant, right, issuing what I would say, the document, the issuing, sorry, those who are supposed to use that particular document. So that particular centralized document will issue the document to all those who are supposed to use that document, right? And if you are not, and if you feel like that particular document is applicable to any of the other departments or the functions, you can control it at your level. So in that case, you need to mention all, you need to track the complete documentation revision history, right? Right from when was the document released, when was the revision has taken place, who has approved the revision, right? Who has prepared the document, right? When if there are any supporting documents required for the change, right? So basically, earlier what sir has said is you need to basically assess the risk related to 4Ms, right? And then implement those changes. So there are like both ways you can implement the change. Okay, sir? Vishal sir, is it okay? Okay, sir. Thank you. So now moving on to clause number 8, okay, which is nothing but your operations, right? So here if you see, this is the smallest clause in the standard, both in 14 as well as in 45,000 standard, right, compared to 9,001. So here we have clause number 8.1, operation planning and control, which is for both 14,000 as well as 45,000. And then 8.2 clause, we have emergency preparedness and response plan, which is again applicable for both 14,000 and 45,001. Now, if you see the next subsequent slides, right, what we are going to discuss is on this particular operation planning and control, right? in relation to 14,000 and 45,000, and we are going to discuss on emergency preparedness and response plan. Okay. Yes. Now, when I say operational planning and control, okay. Now, what do you understand by this? We have already discussed in detail in ISO 9001, but still I would request others to please raise their hand and speak on this, because this is related to your environment management system and 45,001. So when I say operational planning and control, what do we need to ensure in this particular clause as far as environment management system and occupational health and safety management system is concerned? Yes, class. Yes, Ravi Shankar sir, please unmute yourself and speak if you have anything to say.
Nothing, sir.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, so similar to what we have discussed in 9001, we have to basically ensure all the processes, work instructions, right, your WIPs, your procedures, right, your formats, right, the risk assessment or the resources, sourcing decisions, right, the maintenance criteria, instrument calibrations, right, then verifications, all these factors are to be identified, right, and are to be controlled basically for for performing your product realization activities, right? So here the important point as far as 14,001 is concerned in clause number 8.1 is the life cycle perspective. So it has got a linkage with your clause number 6.1.2, which we have discussed in 14,001, which was for environmental aspect and impact, right? So whatever identification you will be doing in an environmental aspect impact study for the life cycle applicability, for all those points you have to conduct the life cycle perspective. This is in relation to your clause number 8.1. So this particular requirement is addressed in this particular clause. Consistent with the life cycle perspective, the organization must establish controls to ensure its environmental requirements are addressed in the design and development process for product or service, considering each life cycle stage. This is what we have discussed. Determine its environmental requirements for the procurement of product and services as appropriate. So wherever the procurement of product and services is applicable, you have to also consider this particular activity. Communicate its relevant environmental requirements to external providers, including contractors. Now, here, similar to what we have discussed in clause number 8.4, if you remember in IETF, right, your communication to external providers, right, information to external providers, what you as an organization are expecting from your external providers as far as the life cycle perspective is concerned, right? You need to provide the instructions to them. Like for example, many of the companies now what are they doing is they are reusing the corrugated boxes, right? Like if you, I mean the classic example of this recycling is your soft drink bottles, right? When we use it, those bottles again goes into the manufacturing plant and they reuse it, right? They refill it and they again like to their concerned interested parties. So similarly, if you feel like if there are any special instructions related to the life cycle perspective is concerned, you need to communicate those requirements to all your external providers. It could be contractors, it could be service providers, it could be external agents, right? Consider the need to provide information about significant environmental impacts associated with the transportation or delivery use. end of life cycle treatment and final disposition of its product. Again, this I have already briefed you a while back when we have discussed that you can, like, how do you dispose your product, right? You also need to like inform your the interested parties, like your customers, your dealers, your contractors or your suppliers. How do you dispose of your product, right? So this is what is given in clause number 8.1 as far as your 14,001 clause is concerned, right? Now I'll be discussing on clause number 8.1 related to your 45,001. Now, similar to what we have discussed in operation planning, right? Now here in 45,001, what this particular standard is asking us is, first of all, we'll discuss on this generic clause, which is 8.1.1, right? Now, when I say operational planning and control, right? So we have discussed in context of ISO 9001 and in context of ISO 45,001, right? Now we will discuss this in context of 45,001. So now here, as far as 45,001 is concerned, what you can have is you can ensure like procedures, work instructions, process maps are controlled, operating criteria we have defined, competency of the worker, right? Maintenance and inspection programs could be there, right? There could be development of specifications for your goods and services, right? There could be a criteria and operational planning on how the control on the contractors should be there, like by the organizations, right? How visitors, what I would say, visitors entry to be restricted in the workplace, right? What are the PPEs to be used in the form of like visitor management, like system to be there? What could be the administrative controls? So these are some of the examples of your clause number 8.1 in context of your 45,001 standard, right? Now here, as compared to 14,001, right, clause number 8.1, there is only one subclause. But in 45,001, there are 4 subclauses, which is 8.1.1, which is very general. Then we have 8.1.2, which is elimination of hazard and reducing the OH&S risk, right? This is a new entry as a clause in the standard compared to OSHA's 18,001. Then we have management of change, right? So this is again, this requirement was there in the earlier standard, but now this has come in this particular standard as a separate clause altogether, 8.1.3. And 8.1.4 procurement, right? This is a new entry in ISO 45,001. This was not there in OSHA's 18,001. So this is again a new requirement. So we are going to see one by one what are the requirements as far as these clauses are concerned. So first we will discuss on clause number 8.1.2, which is elimination of hazard and reduction in occupational health and safety related risk. Now, what this particular clause is saying is the organization has to implement the controls, right? Now, whenever you conduct an HIRA, right, hazard identification risk assessment, you are going to plan for an action for like based on the criteria you define, right? Based on the risk level, based on the legal requirements, or based on your what I would say, the interested party concerns, if any, right? It depends on the organization, what are the criteria. Whenever you are planning for an action, they have given the controls, right, to be established. So whenever you are planning for an action, first you need to identify the elimination control, right? If elimination is not possible, identify a substitution control. If substitution control is not feasible, identify engineering controls or a reorganization of work, right? If that is also not possible, identify the administrative controls. And even if administrative controls are not possible, then you go on to identifying personal protective equipment. This is basically the hierarchy in which you need to identify the controls, right? Now I'll give you the example for each of these controls so that you will get an understanding on what do we mean by elimination or substitution control, right? When I say elimination control, now let us say for example, use of an automated system instead of a manual system, right? Like eliminating monotonous work practices, like there could be the inspection activities or there could be the process activity, right? There could be like if you are removing a forklift, like forklift trucks from an area, that is what we call it as an elimination control, right? So some of the examples of elimination controls, right? Moving on to substitution controls, right? For example, replacing the solvent-based paint by the water-based paint. Now, if you all could realize, right, the paints which are coming in the market, they are all like water-based paints. All the solvent-based paints are now replaced by the water-based paints, right? Oil-based silicone, right? They have been replaced by the water-based silicones, right? If there are slippery floor tiles in the shop floor or like any of your work premises, you can replace it, right? Lowering down the temperature, right? Like pressure, right? Pressure requirements in the equipment, right? So these could be like these are some of the example of your substitution control. Now, what could be the example for engineering controls? Engineering controls like, for example, machine guarding, right? Ventilation system, right? Reducing noise, okay? What other? It could be use of guide rails for the height activities if you are performing activities from height, right? Providing the guide rails, right? Like these are some of the example of engineering controls. Like reorganization of work, right? If you read standard standard has also mentioned the requirement for reorganization of work. So reorganization of work could be elimination of your unhealthy working hours, right? If like employees are working for 10 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours, right? You can eliminate those, or you can like reorganize the work, or you can reschedule it. Like for example, there is a shift handover activities which takes place, right? Where you can what I would say, the workload can be reduced by the rotation of shift or rotation of work, right? So in this way you can reorganize the work also, right? Administrative activities, right? Now administrative controls could be like your periodic inspection of safety equipment, right? There could be like you can as we have discussed in your clause number your 8.1, right? And your HERA 6.2, where we have to do the HERA for social factors like victimization, bullying and harassment. You can conduct a training to spread awareness on like what is like bullying or what is your the victimization, right? How to report the incidents and non-conformities. You can provide induction trainings. You can provide the awareness trainings, right? There could be health checkup camps, right? There could be use of safety signs like awareness. There could be emergency control centers, right? Like these can be part of your administrative. Can be the part of your administrative controls. And then we have PPs, right? As you all know, use of safety goggles, use of safety shoes, nose mask, then helmet and jackets, right? So this particular hierarchy of controls you need to implement while defining an action plan for the hazard or like reducing the risk. Okay. Any doubts in this as far as 8.1.2 clause is concerned, class?
No. Đi là ù hết cả tai ấy.
Đâu đâu.
Số này chị thấy đau đầu nhỉ? Không thấy bình thường.
Yes, so everybody has understood everything, I believe, right? Because no questions means no doubts, means you have understood everything.
Giờ sắp về. Hào ơi.
Xin lỗi.
Mangesh sir, there could be a network issue there in that case, because everybody could see my current screen, right, which I have displayed clause number 8.1.2, sir. Okay, class, so I am moving on to next clause, which is 8.1.3, management of change, right? So for this, again, standard is asking you for the documented process, right? So here, the change management is, we need to have a change management process as far as 45,001 is concerned. Now, the purpose of change management, what is the purpose? It is basically to minimize the introduction of new hazards and risk into the workplace, right? As a result of, it could be because of change in raw material, it could be because of change in your design specification, it could be because of change in plant equipment facilities, it could be because of standards, it could be because of personnel, it could be because of any other factors, right? So we need to have a change management process in order to minimize the introduction of new hazards and risks. What does this mean? That if there are any changes, right, happening in the organization, right, you could see here, change in manpower, change in workforce, change in workload, change in specification, raw material, change in equipment, change in standards, change in competency level, you need to conduct a HERA study. And after conducting HERA study, if there is no risk, right, which is generating because of the proposed implementation of the change, you can definitely implement that change. But if there is a risk, then you need to evaluate a risk, you need to address a risk, you need to have a common consensus of all those who are involved in this particular study. So now, what I would suggest, I generally recommend, you should also make a safety manager, or whosoever is responsible in your organization for managing health, safety and environment related system requirement should also be a part of the change management process, right? So whenever there is any change, right, that particular personnel or that particular team will also evaluate the change, the impact of the change with respect to the environment and and for the health and safety as well, right? So in a way, it will be, so you can have a common change management process in order to address this particular requirement for 14,001 as well as for 45,001. Okay, plus any doubts on this management of change? Yes, class, any question? Any doubts? If no, yes, Arvind sir, this is same as in IETF, but here the only thing which we need to do is whenever there is any changes, if there are any changes happening, right, as far as your quality management system is concerned, even you need to review the impact of those changes on your environment management system and on your occupational health and safety management system. So in a way, if there is any change happening, you have to conduct a HERA, an environmental aspect impact study, which is nothing but a proactive approach, right? And check whether because of that particular change, right, will there be any impact on health, safety and environment management system. If there is no impact happening because of that change, you can definitely for sure implement those changes after taking a common consensus. If there is an impact, you need to review, right? You need to evaluate a risk, right? Define an action plan, implement those action plan, right? Address the health and safety related requirements and then implement the changes. Yes, team, any questions? If no, I'll move on to the next clause, next sub-clause, which is your procurement.
Hết giờ mua rồi cái gì?
Chắc không quên nên chị phải nhắc.
Right, so in this particular clause, if you see, there are 2 points. One is contractor and one is outsourcing. Now, my first question to all of you is, why procurement must have been included now in ISO 45001? Can anyone answer this for me?
Okay.
Yes, team, I would request you to please speak or please drop in your answers or your inputs in the chat box. Ravi sir, my question is, I'll repeat it once again. Why procurement clause now must have been included in ISO 45001-2018? This particular procurement clause requirement was not there in earlier standard, which was OSHA's 18001. Right? This procurement we have only seen as a part of our quality management system. So what this particular clause is now a part, this requirement is part of my occupational health and safety management system. Class, we will finish clause number 8 today and then we will close for the day, right? So I will take again another your 15 minutes, right? Still 5 minutes are left to end the session. As far as our official time is concerned, I'll take another 15 minutes extra. We'll finish with 8.2 and then we can close for the day. Sorry for inconvenience. Yes, Sagar sir. Yes, Ravi sir, you can unmute yourself and speak, and then I'll provide an opportunity to Sagar sir. Yes, Ravi sir.
Safety control.
Procurement.
Yeah, I have already mentioned procurement. Now you are saying procurement is a new thing, new edition, right?
Yes, in 45,001.
Yeah, it's related to materials and all that. Now if you have ROHS, you have got lead-free materials.
Yes, that is one of the requirements you have right said.
Yeah. This you said environment, but I see 45,000 here.
No, sir. I've specifically talked 45,001 only, and I'm explaining also 45,001. In 14,001, there is no requirement as such for procurement, but it is in context of life cycle perspective, if you remember, right? In that particular 8.1 clause, we have seen that what you are expecting as a part of life cycle perspective, right? You need to inform to your interested parties, right? It could be service providers, it could be outsourcing agencies, it could be contractors. So in a way, there is no procurement related clause in 14,001, but this particular requirement is addressed there in the form of life cycle perspective. Yes, Suhas sir, you are right, as you have rightly said, to have safety control on buying materials and handling it inside premises. Yes, you are absolutely right. So basically the purpose of the procurement is to ensure that the purchases you are doing are safe for use by the workers. Because this particular standard is for the workers, right? This is dedicated, this particular standard implementation is dedicated for the health and safety of the workers only, right? So the purpose of this particular standard is to ensure that the purchases are safe for use by the workers, right? Now here, when you are selecting the contractors, right, basically what standard is saying, you need to have a selection criteria, right, related to health and safety, right? Now, for example, it could be, first of all, like I'll brief you now, when I say the purpose of procurement, how it can be served. It can be like when you apply this particular criteria, you can ensure the supply of equipment in accordance with the legal requirements. installation and commissioning, right, as per the manufacturer guidelines, right. Supply of material you can ensure according to the technical specification, right. You can ensure MSDS availability to the workers and to the contractors, right. Now, when I say contractors, right, contractors activities, it could be your security services, it could be maintenance services, it could be cleaning services, it could be waste management, it could be construction activities. So what standard is saying? Apply occupational health and safety related criteria for the selection, right? Like for example, the selection criteria like could be like availability of contractors EPRP plan, right? In case of the emergency, it could be like the contractors worker competency level, right? It could be the experience, right? It could be ISO 45001 certification, right? It could be disposal of the hazardous waste. It could be safe handling practices, right? So these could be like some of the selection criteria which you can apply while you are selecting the contractors as a part of the ISO 45001/2018 requirement, right? Now there is also a requirement for outsourcing activities, right? Now outsourcing activities could be, it could be like training services. It could be like as you have like welding and soldering, right? So outsourcing of the welding process or a soldering process or a heat treatment process, right? So these are some of the examples of outsourcing activities. So in your procurement process, you need to have a supplier, you need to have a contractor selection criteria, and how are you managing the outsourcing activities, right, is to be mentioned, right? So this is basically the purpose of your procurement related activities, right? So any doubts, any queries related to this particular clause 8.1.4?
No. Lâu for the day.
Hai đứa đi về trước nữa.
Arvind sir, I would request you to download the material once again. I think you must have downloaded the earlier material, because I think there was a material uploading issue because of the size. So I'll request all of you to please download the material once again, because I have uploaded this particular material which I am using has, I think, around
450 pages.
Yes, sir, it is around 450 pages. So it is. So now are you able to see, sir? I mean, if you have downloaded the latest file.
I request everybody, please.
I would request others also, if you have not downloaded, please re-download it so that you get the updated file.
Điểm tính lỗi còn có 5 phút nữa thôi, ngồi nốt đi. Có tắt đâu, máy tính vẫn để mà đi xuống nào.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Arvind sir, for your instruction. Yes, class, any doubts, any queries as far as clause number 8.1 is concerned?
No.
Related to 45 or related to 14,000? Please drop in your message in the chat box. Thank you, Lee. No doubts. Okay, Rahul sir has no doubt. Lee has no doubt.
Đâu đầu tiên nên nó thành kim chỉ đầu tiên. Bye sir. Chị nhắn đi bye sir.
Pradeep sir has no doubt. Okay.
Quá đau rồi.
Great. So then I will move on to clause number 8.2. Right? So this is related to 9001. I'll skip these slides. ITF related and ISO related. Yes. So emergency preparedness and response plan. So this EPRP clause is same. The requirements are same as far as your EMS and your OHSMS standard is concerned, right? So we will discuss on this. Now, my question to all of you is, what is the purpose of emergency preparedness response plan? What is the purpose of EPRP?
No. 4 giờ rồi, 3 giờ nó mới ăn trưa. 7 giờ chị đã đói.
Sao bây giờ em muộn đấy?
Lạnh uống trà 1,5 tiếng rồi.
Quan trọng là họ đang ở nhà ngồi lúc nào mà trả được.
Thật. Nó có vẻ như mình đâu. Hôm qua đang đến giờ ăn vẫn phải ngồi nghe, thế là bê máy tính ra bàn ăn. Đang làm việc rất ngon thì nhưng lại tét.
Có rượu không nhỉ? Đây sữa bánh không ăn nổi những cái đấy nữa rồi. Không, em thề với anh em ăn bát mì tôm em thấy sỡi cả người luôn. Bát mì tôm không phải
Ăn
vay.
mấy đồ linh tinh này bây giờ được kèm mà được ăn bữa ốc ngon. Ốc xào.
Sao im vậy? Ha, cắt rồi đấy.
Với Hà đã trễ quá lâu rồi quán ốc.
Ốc nhiều
Ôi, ốc không nó chưa mở lại đâu. Phúc Yên bây giờ vắng như chùa Bà Đanh, tí nữa em về là đường không còn một bóng nữa.
Ở đâu vậy thế?
Đấy. May cái đợt 14 tháng 2 là lâu là vẫn có. Ở tháng 3 ấy.
Đi đường lớn vẫn có. Ngoặt vào đường là đường trong chỗ Phúc Yên phải. Không còn bóng nữa.
Hết chưa nhỉ?
Thì im nếu không biết là xong chưa?
Chưa đi, em đi xuống đó. Đi em đi xuống đó. Em về trước đó. Nó biết em đứng lên đúng không? Thế là please sit down.
To handle station line.
Sit down,
Okay, so basically when I say emergency preparedness response plan, so emergency preparedness response plan, when I say, is you should have an emergency preparedness response plan in order to respond to the emergency situations, right? So first we need to identify the emergency situations. What EPRP plan says is, you need to identify the emergency situations, right? You need to define an action plan to respond to the emergency situation, right? You need to periodically test the EPRP plan, okay? You need to basically review this particular EPRP plan and revise, right, if there is any response, right? And if that planned response, if the particular emergency has occurred, you need to review the planned response and if required, change the action plan for that particular. Right? You need to provide the trainings to the concerns, right, related to your EPRP. Like for example, when I say EPRP, right? EPRP, when I say, right, the EPRP should have the provision for the first aid, right? You should provide training for the planned response, like when we conduct a mock drill. Mock drill is a part of our EPRP plan, right? Testing of EPRP plan at the yes, you conduct the mock drill. But when I say sir, you conduct a mock drill, you don't. I would put it like this: you don't create an emergency, right? We basically create that situation of emergency, right? And we act upon it. When we say we conduct a mock drill for fire, we don't actually. What I would say, we don't actually. They create a fire, right, in the organization. We actually raise an alarm, right, by raising an emergency related to the fire, and then we see whether the people are able to evacuate themselves and get themselves rescued out of this particular emergency, right? So when we prepare an EPRP plan, identify all the emergency situations which can happen in your organizations, and for all those emergency situations, you need to have an action plan in place, and you need to define a frequency for conducting an EPRP, right? You need to have a frequency for testing of this emergency situation. Now, let us say if you have 20 emergency situation, maybe you can have a 5 years of an EPRP plan, right? Wherein you can define, depending on the priority, depending on the risk of the emergencies, right? You can prepare an 5 years plan. Maybe you can plan the emergency situation for like once in a year, twice in a year, but ensure that all the emergencies addressed in the EPRP plan are covered in your emergency preparedness response action plan, right? That is what is more important, right? So communication of emergency control centers to all workers needs to be addressed. I mean, has to be there. Emergency contact details, right? Firefighting team, first aid team, who is your emergency response team, right? Your emergency contact numbers. So these are like some of the requirements which are to be addressed as a part of your EPRP requirements, right? So with this, I finish with clause number 8.2. EPRP testing is similar to contingency plan. Yes, sir. EPRP testing is similar to contingency plan. Because look, when I say emergency preparedness response plan, right? So if our action plans are not good enough to respond to emergency situations, they are of no use. So that's the reason why we need to have those action plans in place, and we should test those action plans which we have planned for responding to the emergency situations. Okay, so with this, I finish with clause number 8. Class, if you have any doubts, any queries related to this particular clause, please raise your hands or drop in your questions in the chat box.
Raise your hand. Raise your hand lên. Tin không?
Đừng ném.
If no questions, we will have a small test of two questions on clause number 7 and 8, and then we can close for the day.
Test à? Test. Chết rồi, phiên bản là hết hạn rồi. Đáng ao ra rồi đấy. Vào.
Okay, so I am launching the test on clause number 7 and 8.
Chết rồi, tự nhiên nếu test nó còn không kết nối được này anh Hải ơi. Test kia, cứ ngồi đấy xem 18 cộng.
Đâu, đây là của đứa nào đây?
Chả học.
Đứa nào đây?
Yes, class, I have launched the test on clause number 7 and 8. I'll request you all to please attend.
Nào dịch đi thôi.
A, B, C cái gì?
And please do let me know if you are not able to see.
Cùng một confirming.
Sao lại mất
I
cái
believe everybody can see completely, not yet completely black screen. Sachin sir.
Thả vào được không? Có. Mọi người chọn cái gì nhắn vào cho em đến.
Yes, Mangesh sir, there could be a network issue. I don't know, but what about others? Because till now I have only received response as no. Sachin sir has now responded. Now he can see. Suha sir can see. Sanjay sir cannot see. Praveen sir has submitted the results.
Submit rồi anh.
Anh chưa?
Sashi sir can see. Milind sir can see.
Em chọn, em submit trước nhé.
BA đúng không?
Vâng.
Xong rồi submit đi để còn.
Hemant sir has submitted the result even.
Ô, câu 1A.
1A.
Vâng.
50% à?
50%.
A. Đấy.
Nó đi theo cặp mà. Để phần kép rồi nhé. Ra theo cặp. Phần kép rồi.
Sơn đây này.
Arvind sir has submitted. Yes, Mangesh sir, do you have any questions? Sagar sir, any question? Please unmute yourself and ask sir.
Không chị vào máy em ấy. Đây máy em đấy.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
8 à 9 9.
No, I have raised a hand to say that I have been taking the
Cái dưới.
Okay, no question?
No,
À, được rồi chị, được rồi.
Okay.
Được rồi chị ạ. Ông sẽ mất kết nối này. Được chưa? Cho em mượn em vào máy em đi.
Cecil sir, please unmute yourself.
Chị tắt rồi à? Tắt rồi để em đi xuống.
Yeah, submitted, sir, already.
Okay. No, you have raised your hand. I thought you have any doubt.
No, sir, no, thank you.
Okay, welcome, sir.
tám. Y dài y ngắn. B. Quá nhanh. Rồi.
Đây không?
Vâng. Thế sao đây nó ghi mất kết nối nhỉ?
Được rồi.
Hai người có trả lời là gì? Tôi đọc trên hàng AA. Nam này.
This class, any questions, any doubts related to whatever we have covered till date?
Thế mà mất được sự.
Because tomorrow is the last day of our session. Yes, Vishwanath sir, please unmute yourself.
Team Việt Nam đăng đây. Cho nó hốt.
Yes, Vishwanath sir.
Việt Nam team on the way.
Vishwanath sir, any doubt? You have raised your hand. I could see.
Done. Học thì chả thấy sôi nổi, bài kiểm tra học thấy Việt Nam team đằng trước.
Vishwanath sir, any doubt?
Thì trượt đây.
Lúc thi trượt loi hồn.
Có thể là thi không vấn đề, nhưng lúc làm này bữa mồm biết làm từ đâu. Nghe
Okay, so I request those who have not yet submitted the result, please raise their hands.
Xong lại hỏi ông Avin, ông còn bảo chúng mày ngày xưa làm bài giỏi lắm cơ mà. Bây giờ lại hỏi.
Xỉ vào những cái này bọn tao không hiểu.
Biết là tao là thần đồng xác suất thống kê à?
Cái gì chứ gieo quẻ là nhanh lắm.
Khánh số học, giáo sư số học.
Those who have not yet submitted the result, please raise their hands.
Sư hèn. Thôi em đi xuống trước nhá. Xuống em còn tắt máy. Này mang về cho con đây này. Chị Lý. Anh Nam này.
Nhất định phải mang về à?
Mang về. Em sẽ mang về cho chồng em mai, chồng em không phải ăn sáng. Em không phải dậy.
Okay, so there is no one. So I'm closing the test. I hope Vietnam team have submitted the result.
Đăng là cái gì?
Because they have even not raised their hands, so I believe submitted.
Anh về chưa?
So I'm closing the test.
Về chưa?
Em xuống cất đồ. Rút đi. Nhắm mắt.
Xong chưa?
Tự thoát à? Hết bài rồi.
Tự thoát rồi.
So 70% have answered the first question correctly and 91% have answered the second question correctly. Okay class, so Priyanka madam is not able to have test and login issue. Okay sir, it's okay. Please report, you can report this to Arvind sir, because I cannot help you out in this. As a part of an activity, we have to attend the test, but if you are facing any difficulties, any network related issues, please get in touch with your SPOC, I would say. Okay, Ravi sir, I will explain the first question. Acme Manufacturing communicates its OHS policies and objectives to person doing work under their control and ensures these personnel are aware of their contribution to the effectiveness of the OHSMS, including the benefits of improved performance and implications of not conforming with the OHS requirements. Now here, if you see sir, these requirements are also there in 9001, right? But what we have additionally discussed as a part of the 45001 is the employees, the workers should be aware of, right, the number of incidents reported in the organization related to the scope of work and what are the actions taken. Then, how to conduct the hazard identification and risk assessments, right? How to rescue themselves in case if they have encountered a dangerous situation, right? And what are the hazards related to their work, right? And what are the risks and what are the actions taken in order to encounter the risk associated with those hazards. So all these requirements are not basically communicated or addressed, right, as far as this particular question is concerned. Right, so they have only addressed the requirements related to the generic requirements related to clause number 7 of 9001. That is, they should be aware about their policies, they should be aware about their objectives, they should know what are the implications of not conforming to the requirements and what are the benefits. But as far as 45,001 is concerned, apart from these requirements, the additional 4 requirements we have already seen, right? About knowing what are the incidents reported, what are the action taken, what are the hazards, right? What are the risks associated with those hazards, what is the competency level, right? How to rescue in case of emergency is reported, right? So these all requirements are missing here. That's why it is a non-conformity. Okay, Ravi sir, I hope I have answered your question. Sachin sir, it could be a network issue, I believe. I hope others could. Okay. Okay, class. So I am hiding the results now. Okay. If you don't have any doubts, any queries, we can close for the day. We will resume tomorrow. If you have any doubts, any queries, please raise your hands or drop in your questions in the chat box.